Well, hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm just going to be showing you how to do some soldering on some LED light strip and showing you how to do some soldering on a 3mm bulb. Now, if you can see, pretty clear, you can see pretty much everything that you're going to need to do your soldering. First of all, you want to make sure that your soldering iron gets hot enough. You want to make sure that it gets to about 800 degrees in temperature, because you want to make sure that when you do your soldering, it will melt the solder good enough. Or if it doesn't get hot enough, you're going to have problems with your joint, and it could come apart eventually, and then you're going to have trouble with your lighting system in your model. So I know Boyd did over at TrekWorks did a tutorial on how to do some soldering, on how to test and solder LEDs and stuff. And I know Jerry over at HDA Modelworks showed you how to wire solder and wire on some of this. I believe it's 0805 double density light strip. It's very micro. I mean, it's smaller than the normal LED strip tape. But that one there, that stuff, that light strip is a little bit different because it's it's smaller, and on that one you have to have a fine tip soldering tip on your soldering iron. That way it gets onto that area real small. If not, you can just use, I have a flat tip on mine for my normal soldering. Now I use and I have been using now for the last couple of years the Demko. Sorry, my wife drew that on there to make it look like a Demko because my last name. But anyway, this stuff is made by Demko, and this is 26 gauge enameled copper wire, and it's got 315 feet on it. And I got this off of eBay, and you could probably look them up and get get them on there, look them up and find it. I like to use the 26 gauge simply for the fact that it just it's thick enough to where you can get a good solder. It will hold a good 12 volt charge on the 12 volt power supply real well. And I paid, I think, about I can't remember if it was somewhere between $7 to $12 on eBay. And there's enough wire on. Like I said, there's 315 feet of it, so there's enough here to do several models that'll last you quite a while. And the one thing about this is you don't have to strip the wire. You can, I do, and I'll show you how to do that here in a little bit. But if you have a good enough soldering iron, you can just put your solder down on your surface, or wrap it around your LED, and the heat of the solder and the solder and the heat from the gun will melt through that enamel pretty easy. But I'll take you through and show you how to take care of all that. But you can also go. I use these helping hands. Many of you may not have them. Some of you, I know, I'm pretty sure most of the professional modelers out there are going to have these helping hands. They come in real handy. You can get these at pretty much anywhere. Hobby Lobby, your local Harbor Freight. They're about $6 there, I think. Fry's Electronics, they're about $6. So I mean, they come in real handy, and they have a magnifying glass that comes with it. So, but I took mine off because I don't ever need it. I use a magnifying glass, looking glass, or a visor. And if some of you don't have a power supply tester, you can just use a straight up 9-volt battery to test it. It won't hurt your LEDs or any of your lighting systems on there, as long as you remember that you keep your leads the right way. You have your your negative and then your positive and on these batteries, so that way you don't blow your bulb. But I want to tell you though, don't ever test your LEDs without a resistor on them, because the second you touch those leads to with a battery or a power supply tester, it's going to blow the LED like almost instantly. So make sure of that. So all right, well, to get into it, and also you might want to go through when you get this, wherever you can, if you can find it, you want to I picked this up for about $4 at Fry's Electronics. It's a tip cleaner and tinner, and it works real well. Basically, it cleans off, and it cleans your tip and retins it and everything else like that. So that comes in real handy. And the best solder I found is the 6040 rosin core solder. It works real well. It's real thin. You really don't want the big round stuff. See if I have a little bit of it. I quit using it. You can see the difference in the size. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit on it. But you can see the size, and you want to keep it small. So because this works better for electrical soldering anyway. So all right, to get into that, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through and show you how to resolder, or solder some these LEDs. Now on these 3mm, on any LED, you're going to have a positive lead and a negative lead. Now the positive lead is going to be longer, just a little bit longer than the negative. So always remember that the positive is longer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a positive lead, and what I do, because a lot of these ships, like the 1/1000 scale ships, they don't have a whole lot of room in there. So you're not going to have a lot of room to keep this lead long and solder on a LED, the resistor and then the wire. So what I do is I take my positive, and I will cut it down, about halfway through, maybe just a little bit, maybe about halfway through, and discard the rest. Now you want to make sure that when you do this, you don't cut both of them at the same time, because it's very easy to, you can forget which one's which. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to place this LED in my helping hands. Let me zoom in to show you. Let's see if I can't get a good picture. Let me swing the camera around. Let me see if I can't zoom in without losing my focus here. Alright, so I've got my LED in place, and I got my soldering iron on, and what I'll do now is I'll take my soldering iron, and I'll clean the tip off. I'll tin it with that little tinning deal, and I'll touch my solder to my soldering iron to tin the tip. And when you see that smoke, you have it, got good contact, and it's ready to go. So all I got to do now is just touch my soldering iron tip to the LED, and we have solder on the tip. So now, like I mentioned, I'll cut down my resistors and everything else. So I'll cut it down to about half. And what I'll do is now I don't need to touch my solder to this anymore, because it's already on there. And I'll just touch it right to it. And you can see, you'll know when it catches, and you can see it also too. You can also see it when it touches, and if you can get it still, you'll see the rosin. You'll see the solder change color, and it'll be just a little bit different color. So Anyway, alright, so now we're going to take that and cut the other end of this resistor off a little bit. And I'll take some of my, oh yeah, and I want to tell you, I use the red for my positive and the green for my negative you know, power supply, you know, the leads on there. And I'll back you out a little bit so I can show you what I'm doing. And also too, you know, if you want to strip the ends off, it's what I do is I'll take you know, a cheap lighter, or you can get a fireplace lighter, and I will hold it up to the wire until I see. You'll see it kind of like a fuse will, it'll just lighten, ignite, and run down the wire just a little bit, and then you'll know when you see it because it's got you'll start seeing the bare copper. And I'll do that with both ends real quick. Alright, now, and what I do, you don't have to, like I said, if you have a good enough soldering iron, but what I do is I use my Dremel tool to, and I'll turn it down a little bit. And what I'll do is I'll take the charred enamel off, just to ensure that you have a good bare wire there, because you do want a good contact. You don't want it to come loose once you get it in the model and then have to tear your model apart. Alright, now let me zoom back in again and show you, get back down to the LED. Maybe it'll focus on me here, I don't know. But what I do is I usually will take my wire and just kind of wrap it around the resistor, the end just a little bit until that way it'll stay. And then I'll take my soldering iron and clean it, and then again I'll touch my solder to until I get that puff of smoke, and then I just take my soldering iron and just rub it across the wire. And I do add extra on there just in case it doesn't come off. Alright, now that's on there, it's not going anywhere. Now sometimes you will have you will have a little bit of a piece that, oops, sorry. You will sometimes have a little bit of a piece that hangs over. You know, you could just take your cutters and trim them off. Trim it off, and then that way when you put your you want to make sure you put some heat shrink tubing over this, that way it won't when accidentally touch and cause it to you know, when you put it in or whatnot and you get your negative and positive leads to accidentally touch, and it'll short the bulb out really quick. So you want to make sure you put heat shrinking tube. It doesn't matter which side, but as long as you put heat, you know, something to prevent these metal leads from touching. So just a rule of thumb there. So now what I'm going to do is take my negative side and do the same thing. I'm going to cut it down and put it back in my helping hands here. I'm going to do the same thing and I'm going to clean my tip off with my soldering iron and tin it a little bit, and then yet again I touch it and put just a little bit of solder on there. You can do that. And then I'll do the same thing here. Cut just a little piece of wire off just to show you. We don't need a whole lot. And I'll back out. I'll back out to show you. Now I'll take the same thing, do the same thing as I'll wrap my, what I'll do is I'll take it off and pinch it and wrap it around a couple of times and then slide it down. And now we're good to go. And I'll put this other end and I'll do that, and then I'll rub it across the helping hands here, or maybe add just a little bit for insurance. Alright. Well, there's the there's the LED that's wired. Alright, now that we have we have a good joint on our LEDs, now what we can do is we're going to test it with that 9-volt battery. Sorry about that, folks, that was an email coming through. And now we're going to test it. I'm going to take my make sure you touch the negative with the negative and the positive on the positive with the battery, so that way you don't short circuit it. And you can see we have, let me move my hand here so you can see the light better. So you can see we have good power there. So that's how you wire an LED. That's pretty standard on every LED. Now the LED strip tape is going to be just a little bit different. It comes, you don't have to use a resistor on it because it comes pre-resisted, and you have you have links where you can cut it off at, in multiples of 3, pretty much standard on all of them. Some of them may have 2 LEDs that you in between each section, but I like getting the ones that are 3. You can get this stuff off eBay pretty cheap for $11 a roll for about 16 feet. Jerry over at HDA Modelworks, I think I paid about I think maybe $20 for 16 foot of this 0805 double density LED strip tape. And also you can go and get some. There's another website. It's called ledwholesalers.com. I don't have a way of displaying it, but it's ledwholesalers.com. And I paid $13 for 16 foot of I think it was the standard white LED strip tape, and it comes where you have a backing on it to where you can just peel it off and then stick it down. But I would recommend using a little bit of either a hot glue or some CA glue, and once you get it down, to put some hot glue or some CA glue down to where it will reinforce it, because that backing will eventually come loose, and you don't want that coming loose in the ship and accidentally touching another circuit and short it out. One thing I do like about this is if you have to have it down inside the model and you need to wire in a separate circuit, you can add wire to the middle of these LEDs, and I'll show you if it'll focus on me. But right there you see there's a positive and a negative lead with copper, and it's got 2 little dots on it where it shows you where you can put your wire. And I've already pre-done this, and so I don't know, let me turn my light off here so I can get a good picture. I don't know if it's gonna let me zoom in or not, but that's how, it's not gonna let me for some reason today. But I've already pre-wired. Once you get it, all you got to do is just put a dab of solder down, and then touch your LEDs, touch your wire to it, make sure it's where it's supposed to go, and it'll be, it ain't gonna go nowhere. So you can, if you want to, if there's areas of your model that you want a little bit dimmer, you can go through and add a resistor just to dim it down a little bit. I use for the resistors, I use the 470 ohm 1/4 watt resistor. That's well enough to withstand a 12 volt board. Most boards will run off of a 9 volt charge, so you can most of the like I said, most of them will run off of this. You ain't gonna run very long if you leave it on pretty much constantly all day, but it will run it for about an hour, 2 hours or so. If you're going to run it off of a 9 volt battery, I would suggest getting the rechargeable batteries to where you can just swap them out. It can be a little bit pricey, but it may be worth it in the end. Or you can do what I do, is I go by and get a 9 volt power supply cord and rig it to where I can just plug it into the wall. And these boards, I get my boards from Ralph over at Tenna Controls, and his boards come pre-resistored, and it comes pre-modulated to where it runs off of a 9 volts, so you can run your power supply. And let me get mine real quick and I'll show you. You can get these at Best Buy or off eBay. I've been using this one now for quite a while, and it comes where it has a 369 volt or a 4.5, 7.5, or 12 volt, and you want to make sure you set it to 9 volt. And if you want it to stay there, I would just putting a little bit of black electrical tape around it to where you can't move it, because you can cause it to overload the board or whatnot. Or if you even want it the lights to run dimmer, you can set it down to a lower setting to where it's not going to push so much voltage through, and that way you can dim your lights if you need to. So, but anyway, that's pretty much how you do that. And if y'all have any questions, just feel free to email me or go to my YouTube page and leave a message or whatnot. So and I'll be more than happy to help. Just a little update what I've been doing. A lot of y'all have been oops, sorry, wrong way. A lot of y'all have been wondering why I haven't done a video in a while. I've had to undergo a little bit of surgery, and I've been out for a while, and so now I'm doing a lot better, and I'm getting back into the swing of things. I had to finish up. One of the reasons why I haven't done a video in a while is because I had to do a quick build and get it out, and through that I've picked up a couple of clients, and one of them is the Enterprise B, which I've seen probably me post progress pictures on Facebook, on my Facebook page. But I'm going back through and redoing this because me and my client didn't like this duck egg blue on here. It pretty much doesn't. This duck egg blue you get from the hobby stores from Model Masters isn't really a blue. It's more of a greenish gray, and it just doesn't look right. So I went through and I just did some mixing on my own, and let me see if I can't get you up there to. There we go. I did some mixing and went off the box and tried to match it as much as possible and came up with this solution, and it works real well. So I've got to go back through and do this ribbon that goes around the side and finish painting these later. But then I'm going to be getting back to my other client builds, the little kit bash. It's almost through and ready to go, and then I've got several other kits coming through. I've picked up another client for a USS Enterprise E with a lighting kit. Waiting on some more supplies to come in for that, and got a couple of I got a 1/1000 scale NX01 to do. I have a TOS 1000 scale to do, and and a couple other things. So I've also got to finish up that Sulaco, that 1350 refit. I had some problems with the nacelles. I went through, and my client was kind of thinking out of the box, and he kind of wanted to match the color of the flux chiller grills with the green straw backing and everything else that's on it that you've seen. And I went through and painted it, and the nacelles just it just didn't work out. And let me get that for you real quick, and I'll show you if I can find it. But here's the nacelle, and I'm going to be doing part 16 here shortly on doing the ass-taking on the outer side of the nacelle. And here's the original flux chiller grill that came with it. And I don't know if you can, let me see if I can show in there, and you can see I've tried to go back through and fix it, and I just decided it would be better to start over because it just didn't work. And he's wanting this iridescent blue-green on there, and it does look real nice in the kit, but it just didn't work out. And I went back through and got found another piece, and I've gotten it painted. I just need to paint that little area in here in the back, and then just reinstall it. And I asked a friend of mine, his name is James Gard over at JC Modelworks, and he suggested to take either, if I have some really strong tape in the middle, you know, or on either end, and once I get it down in there, pull it up to where, you know, get some super glue or CA glue and put it down in there, and it'll be, you know, it should good to go. Or I can take some wire, like fishing string or something, and drill just a little bit of a small hole down in one of these trenches, and just enough to feed some fishing wire through or something, small enough to where it ain't going to be too noticeable, and just pull it up through that way where it's even at both ends. So I still haven't tried to figure out how I'm going to do that yet, but we're going to get back onto that, and then, you know, finish up the other nacelle. For this client, I've still got one other 350 ship to do. I'm probably not going to do any build-up videos for that one, simply for the fact that it's just redundant, but I will be doing update videos for you on that one. This one's going to be kind of cool. Got a couple surprises on that one. It's going to look pretty interesting once we get it finished, and I think it's going to look real good. So, but then I've got some good buddy of mine sent me a 350 NX01. I'm going to do that one, and then I'm going to build eventually. I'm going to finish my 537 Reliant once I get caught up a little bit, and show you on that one. And so we've got a lot of stuff to do here on the channel. So anyway, that's it for the day, and y'all take care. And by the time that you see this video, it'll be probably into the new year when you see it. So we'll do another video then. So take care, and happy modeling, everybody. Take care.